So it's been a while, huh? A long while. But welcome back to my channel and to Houston, Texas, where we live now. In this video, I'm going to tell you the story of how we moved from Bucharest, Romania to Houston, Texas. So if you want to know, just keep on watching. Our 6,122-mile long journey began on December 18, 2020, and was going to last 29 hours. A 4-hour-and-a-half flight from Bucharest to Doha in Qatar, where we had an 8-hour layover, and then a 16-hour flight from Doha to Houston. Given the situation the world is in right now, we were super nervous that we weren't going to make it. Several localities around Bucharest were in strict quarantine, and we were afraid that maybe Bucharest would go into quarantine too, which luckily didn't happen. And since we knew we had to travel, we had to be extra careful to not meet people the weeks before. So, nope, we did not have a goodbye party. We were allowed a total of 4 checked-in bags, 23 kilos each. Fun fact, 2 of these bags exclusively contained sewing machines and sewing tools. We shipped the rest of our belongings in 14 boxes by snail mail. Are you happy to be going home, my baby? Yes. Are you ready for 29 hours of a trip?
Start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are they boarding? Ooh, they're boarding. For flights going into Houston, Qatar Airways didn't require testing, but they did require face masks and face shields, which they provided, to be worn for the whole duration of both flights.
Cabin crew, all customers on board.
The layover is a whole night's sleep, 8 hours. So we'll find the nearest McDonald's and pass out under a table or something. My shorty.
With the shorty cam.
Shorty cam.
Shorty cam 2020.
Makes him maybe look like a shorty.
Yeah. Here we were in search of the family sleep room, which ended up being freezing cold because of the air conditioning running wild. Despite the slight discomfort because of having to wear the masks and face shields, I have to say that Qatar Airways was the best airline I've ever flown with. This was also my longest flight ever. After the slightly traumatic experience of flying to Buenos Aires for 13 hours the previous year, and since both times we flew economy class, I was expecting a cramped space, achy muscles, and swollen ankles, but in retrospect, this time wasn't that bad. It also helped that we had 3 delicious meals and 2 snacks throughout the duration of the flight, plus the space seemed to be a tiny bit more generous. And here we are, finally taking off for what was, for me, a trip into the unknown, and for Ivan, his way home after an absence of 19 months. I was mesmerized by this amazing view above Qatar, an ultra-rich country of 313,000 citizens and 2.3 million expatriates. In fact, even Qatar Airways employees and the staff working at the Doha airport were mostly from other countries. Fun fact about the flight, we even had Wi-Fi, which in theory worked well. I could WhatsApp my family and post on Facebook, for example, but had its limitations. It took me 3 hours to download a 10-minute YouTube video. In any case, way better than being completely lost in hyperspace for 16 hours. It's also worth mentioning that Qatar Airways has the most beautiful boarding music. It seriously becomes addictive after you listen to it a few times. In fact, the 10-minute YouTube video I was downloading was the boarding song on repeat. I also slept for a total of 3 hours. A hint, the sleeping mask thing lasted for exactly 10 minutes before becoming claustrophobic.
2,000 years later.
Is it funky fresh? Even if this time was the second time I became an immigrant, I lived in Italy for more than 7 years, I went through a lot of emotions during this flight. I never had an American dream, and even traveling to the US was always something to do, but later. I was happy in my beloved Europe. And even if in the beginning I wasn't a big fan of the idea of moving to Houston, I do have to say it grew on me over time. I spent the last few months doing research, reading about the pros and cons of living here, watching YouTube videos about moving and living here, so in the end I was actually excited because everyone moving here seemed to love it. Plus, frankly, I do love the adventure and the thrill of discovery and of moving to a new place, so how could I have said no to this?
How do you feel to be home?
I don't know. I don't feel home yet.
No?
No.
Look, so pretty, look. Look. It's so pretty.
Yeah.
Of course, us moving here was not as straightforward as just boarding a long flight and shipping 14 boxes. The process of getting my immigrant visa lasted a whole year and involved several steps, and in itself it was a whole adventure which deserves its own separate video. Here we are finally, only 45 more minutes to go through the huge line at immigration plus another hour for me in the back room of immigration since they needed to register me in the system to start processing my green card.
If you take a look at this, what do you see?
San Antonio.
Huh?
The sign for San Antonio?
Oh yeah. That's because I-10. We're gonna go on a highway that takes you to San Antonio.
You want me to take 45 to the house or take I-10?
Whichever is shorter. I mean, whichever
I-10.
takes us there
40,
faster.
yeah, well, they're the same. 45 goes kind of closer to downtown. We'll do that. 45 to Allen.
Ooh, look, finally some real skyscrapers with me.
Are they nice, baby?
Yes.
Look at that.
So I'm talking about baby.
That's what I'm talking about, baby.
Dude, if I gotta come to America, at least show me some skyscrapers.
Here you go.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, let's go downtown so I can pretend like I'm in New York.
At this point, it was about 6 p.m. and we finally headed home after being en route for a total of 35 hours. Needless to say, I was glued to the car window because no matter how much you see it in movies or pictures or videos, the typical American city landscape seems from another world when you see it for the first time in real life. The next day, a Sunday, started in true Texan Argentine style with lots of grilled food, stories, laughter, sunny warm weather, and a little guest in the shape of a lizard, something very common in Houstonian backyards. The first Houston thing I got to see was the Galleria Mall, not necessarily because that's where we wanted to start sightseeing, but because I came completely unprepared for the unexpectedly warm weather and I needed to buy a light jacket. Are you happy to be home, my baby?
Yeah, I'm happy.
Yeah.
I'm happy to be with my baby.
Yeah?
Yeah.
My baby.
I wouldn't be happy here by myself. I love my baby.
Yes.
Like,
I wouldn't be happy here with myself. I mean by myself either. Just saying.
no, you're not like digging into the.
No, I am digging in, but I said I wouldn't be happy here by myself. Just as I wouldn't be happy in Bucharest by myself.
My baby.
Or in Paris or Milan or Naples for that matter, by the way. One of the things that impressed me the most in those first days was how the buildings are configured throughout most of the city. If in Europe you mostly have apartment buildings with shops and restaurants at the ground floor, shops and restaurants here have their own buildings, plus some generous parking lots. Houston is the 8th most expansive city in the US with an area of 637.4 square miles or 1,651 square kilometers. That means if it was a rectangle, it would be 80 kilometers long and 20.6 kilometers wide. The area of Bucharest is only 88 square miles or 228 square kilometers, which makes Houston 7 times larger than Bucharest. On the other hand, Houston is the 4th most populous city in the US with about 2.3 million people, while Bucharest is the 4th most populous city in the European Union with about 2.1 million people. So you have about the same population in 7 times less space. Of course, as any Romanian immigrant, one of the first things I set myself to do here was to try to recreate a typical Romanian dish, which I have to say came out really well since we actually managed to find all the ingredients, including the weird ones. So after hours of boiling and chopping vegetables and meat, this salad was enjoyed by the family on our Christmas lunch. What immediately struck me about Houston, although I already knew it in theory, is the sheer amount of driving involved to do basically everything. And almost anywhere you go, you need to drive on some sort of highway or freeway or tollway or parkway or some kind of way. Even now, after 2 months, I still haven't gotten used to its really wacky weather. You can have sunshine and 25 degrees today and pouring rain tomorrow. I'm sure I missed a lot of details of this story because it actually happened almost 2 months ago. But if you like this video and if you want to see more content about my international move to the US and to Houston, Texas, make sure to subscribe because I have more videos on this topic coming right away. Until next time, bye-bye.